Welcome to my adventure guide for Dawn Circuit. This is actually the first adventure that I thought about making a video. I started recording these videos a bit over 3 months ago, but it hasn't been back until now, which is 4.5 months since it was the last time. So yeah, this video is it's been a long time in the making. Now, this is the number one most important adventure in this game. And the reason why is that it allows you to farm follower crystals. It's a relatively short adventure, mainly if you go through this short north path. You can go through the south one, but it involves extra fights, and it has this shop that, in my opinion, doesn't have anything of value. So my recommendation is just to go through the short path. This adventure requires a total of 8 energy per run, and as I said, at the end of the run you will get one random follower crystal. Now, out of those 8 energy, you get 4 energy free on each run, meaning that you have to purchase the other 4, as you can see here, for energy per day. Now, when it comes to the different difficulty settings, we have the standard 5 settings, and as I said, you need to spend 4 energy on each run, meaning you have to spend 40 gems on each run. Now, you get a few gems back. If you play on novice difficulty, which is the lowest one, you will get 10 back, meaning one run will cost you 30. On veteran, one run will cost you 20. On champion, one run will cost you 10 gems. On master, you're breaking even, and on ultimate you will actually gain 10 gems per run. Now, if we compare this lowest difficulty setting at novice, 30 gems per one random follower crystal, and we compare it to the standard cost in the shop, which is followers and crafting, which is 300 gems. Yeah, you can see that even at the lowest difficulty setting, you have a 90% discount. Now, true, here you can buy, it's only once a week for each follower crystal, but you can buy what you want. But you can transform follower crystals with Eveline at level 50 at a ratio of 2:1. So even if you played at the lowest difficulty, you can transform 2 unwanted follower crystals for one that you want. So again, even at the lowest difficulty, it will cost you 60 for 2 runs, which is an 80% discount with respect of the standard cost. Now, those are the good news. Now let's talk a little bit about the bad news. This adventure has persistent health, so you can use healing potions, you cannot use mana essences, however. Now, this is something that you can enable or disable right here on general settings, and I have disabled the rest and recover in adventures. I don't like to use it, but it's something that you may want to use, maybe. So, ultimate difficulty, let's start the adventure. And I'm going to do something that I just want to show, because it's not only on this adventure, this is true for all persistent health adventures, but I think that an image is worth 1,000 words, so I'm going to go to the loadout number 7, and I'm going to unequip everything, and I'm going to die on purpose. Please don't do this. This is just because I want to show you on the video what happens. So let's enter. And goodbye. All right, so we're dead. We get the standard prompt of, do you want to revive? You can use it once per battle and it will cost you 50 gems. I'm gonna say no. So we exit. Now, in most adventures, after you die, you can retry the adventure, but as you can see, there is something different here. Let's return to the map. And yeah, this button is grayed out, and you cannot continue the adventure unless you spend not 50 but 100 gems to revive. And this is on top of the regular penalty of dying in a fight, which means that you have to spend extra energy. So instead of the regular 10 gems for 1 energy for a normal battle, or 20 gems or 2 energy for a dungeon battle, here you have to pay an additional 100. Again, this is not exclusive for this adventure. This is true for all the adventures that have persistent health, but it gets a little bit more complicated in this adventure. And the reason why is that there are 2 enemies. One is a cockatrice, which I think is this fight, either this or this, I don't remember for sure. And another enemy, which is the Fallen Draconus in the last dungeon. She is the first enemy of the last dungeon. And these enemies can reflect damage back to you. And if you're not paying attention, if you get distracted, or if you're paying on automatic mode, this will get you killed really, really fast. So I usually say in adventures that quantity is more important than quality. I'm just re-equipping everything back. And this is true for this adventure. You may think, yeah, but I don't really want to spend those gems. Look at it this way. Going down 1 difficulty level will cost you 10 gems per run. So do you prefer to pay 10 gems, additional gems per run and be safe? Or try to save those 10 gems and get the risk of dying and having to pay 50 or 100 or maybe more if you die several times? I think that the answer is very simple for me. So I'm gonna buy the energy. Remember that you can buy 5 sets of 5 energy each on each run. This is not once per adventure, this is, or once per day, this is once per run. So now for real, let's do the run. The first enemy is a centaur, and let's take revenge for letting her killing me. Create 1 green gem and 1 yellow gem every turn. Easy peasy. This is not a problem. And goodbye. Okay. Next fight. Oh, actually it was the second fight, the cockatrice. I thought it was later on, but it's actually the second fight. All right. The cockatrice is not particularly difficult as long as you don't let it cast the spell. So take damage equal to 100% of your life when the opponent matches 10 or more yellow gems. So yeah, if you have the opportunity on round 1 to do so, go for it, but most likely it's not going to happen. But this is the spell that you don't want it to cast. Also remember that persistent health, what it means in an adventure is that if you take damage to your health, it doesn't get recovered in between battles. Again, you may spend potions, but it's not gonna automatically refill after each battle. Alright, the second enemy is dead. The third one is a troll, which regenerates a bit of health for each turn. Okay, that was not planned. um, and yeah, 10% life per turn. So as usual, just make sure that you're strong enough to deal with that regeneration. All right. Now, this is where the path splits. You can continue through the main path, which is this northern one, or go south with the extra 2 fights, because it's 2 fights here and 1 here, while the northern path is only 1 here. So it's not worth spending 20 additional gems or 2 additional energy for that. And here we have a dungeon. I don't know why it doesn't have the icon of the standard dungeon, but it costs 2 energy and is 3 enemies like a normal dungeon. The first enemy is this basilisk that, when taking melee damage, inflicts poison and disease on you. This can be nasty depending on your build. And considering it's at the start of the dungeon, yeah, be careful with it. The second one, inflict terror and freeze on the enemy for 2 turns when taking physical damage. Again, if you're dealing physical damage with a melee weapon, or this one with any weapon, these enemies can be nasty. And the third one is actually the boss, is the easiest one. Just gain mana when taking ice damage. Not the most difficult dungeon, but quite annoying, and especially when we consider that our health is not going to regenerate in between battles. The next enemy is another fallen something, I think is the name. Fallen champion. Increases melee damage for each skull gem on the board. So yeah, if you can eliminate all skulls, much better. Otherwise, yeah, that was a lucky one. His damage can skyrocket and become really, really difficult. And I think we are already at the, yeah, this is the final dungeon. Let me show you the map again. We just went through here, north path, continue until the end. As it says, it's a pretty short adventure. It's 8 energy, but only 6 fights, which is 4 regular fights and 2 dungeon fights. And we are at the last dungeon. Now, this first enemy is the run killer. If you are not careful enough, this is the Fallen Draconus. And when taking magical damage, gain reflect. When taking physical damage, inflict terror on the enemy. Terror will increase the damage you receive by 20%, so it's similar to poison, but it triggers if there are 5 or more purple gems on the board. This enemy uses blue gems instead of purple, but 5 purple gems is quite easy for that to happen. So you need to be careful about that. Now, in order to defeat this enemy, there are 2 main strategies. The first one, okay, this is something also quite annoying because I had reflect. Even when I didn't attack physically, the game still considers that a physical attack, so it did trigger the terror. Okay, but that's fine. Now, what I was saying, there are 2 main strategies to defeat this opponent. The first one, if you're using an elemental build like this one with Frostbolt or a Nightbleed Assassin, any elemental build that is capable of dealing a lot of damage with a single spell, meaning if you can one-shot her, go for it. So Yeah, it is an elemental attack, but it gains reflect for the next attack. So if you are capable of one-shotting her, you will be fine. The second one is using a physical build that doesn't deal any elemental damage. And that is easier said than done. So after the fight, I will show you what I mean. Okay? But in this case, with my build, and now that she's frozen due to my shield, I know I can one-shot her, so I don't have to worry about it. The second enemy is the Legion's Fist, which has life steal, not particularly difficult, but if you got reflected damage from the Fallen Draconus, you may be in big trouble here. Not my case with this build. And finally the boss, which is the Legion boss. Increase all damage by 5% for each purple or blue gem on the board. And yeah, his damage can skyrocket pretty significantly if you're using either blue or purple, even when it's the calculation is during his turn, but still be very careful, again, especially if you got that reflect damage on you. Alright, so the fight is over. I got a level 92 diamond chest. Let's see what's inside. I usually don't open chests under level 100, and yeah, well, at least I got 126 ore, so it wasn't too bad. And we are at the end of the adventure, and we get our random Eveline crystal. Excellent, best crystal ever. We also get a few shards and some gold, but the real price is the crystal. So, as I said at the beginning, this is 100% the adventure that it's more important quantity over quality. Select a difficulty that you can easily deal with. My advice is whatever difficulty you normally do for other adventures, just pick the one below. This is not the adventure to be greedy with your gems or to farm for experience. Just focus on doing as fast as you can, as many runs as you can, and get those follower crystals for cheap. Very, very cheap. Now, going back to what I was saying before, let's say, for example, that you're playing a green mercenary, which is not this one. I think this one has the spells. If you use a spell like Dirty Blade, this spell that is used to generate skulls also deals elemental damage, which means that it will trigger her reflect ability. However, if you're playing a green necromancer, which is pretty much the same spells and the same okay, I don't have a green loadout here, but still it's pretty much the same equipment that you can use. However, for the green necromancer you can use poison skulls, which generates skulls and has a chance to poison. But this is not poison damage, this is not elemental poison. This is a debuff on the opponent, so this is a safe spell to use. Another example, if you're using a berserker, a red physical berserker, which is also very popular. If you try to use a spell like Burning Hands, and this is not safe, it might get you killed. If you need to generate gems, use Channel Fire. Each element has one channel element spell, and all of them are safe because they generate gems and they inflict a debuff, but they don't deal elemental damage. Or you can also use Scorching Ray to generate gems, and this is also a safe spell that doesn't deal elemental damage and it won't trigger the ability. And for example, for generating skulls, if you are using flaming skulls, this can get you killed. If you're strong enough, you may one-shot her, but make sure you do, otherwise you're gonna be in trouble. And what was the other one? I think it's this one that also deals... no, this one is safe because it deals melee damage. Split Skulls is also safe because it deals melee damage. Again, it's not elemental damage, so it doesn't trigger her reflect ability, and it generates red gems or skulls. Also, for generating skulls, you can use Gravedigger. This is another safe spell that doesn't deal elemental damage. And you can create a new loadout specifically for this adventure with safe spells. And when it comes to your gear, have a look at what items do you use. Especially, do not use an elven bow, because the elven bow deals additional elemental damage. There is one or two other weapons that can get you in trouble. Just have a look at your equipment and your spell loadout and make sure that whatever you're using is going to be safe for the adventure. And that is my video on the Dawn Circuit adventure. Please like, comment, subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. And farm as many crystals as you can, because you never know when the adventure is going to be back. See ya.